good morning. Welcome. Glad you're here. I'm going to be talking about the new era and you. So before I begin, I have 6 points or questions that you can consider while I'm sharing the information with you this morning. And the first point is to ask yourself, what is the new era? The second, how can you use the new era energy? How can you use the new era energy? The third point, how do you build soul relationships? The fourth, what does a soul become when he enters the spiritual triad? 5, those who are in contact with their solar angel demonstrate certain signs, and I'll be sharing 3 of those signs this morning. So you want to think about these signs and see if you or others that you know are in contact with their solar angel through those 3 signs. And then finally, opposing forces. I'll speak just very briefly about opposing forces. Establishing right relations today is more important than ever, for it is in building soul relations, or another phrase that you hear frequently from the teaching, right human relations, that we can bring humanity into the new era and into a new consciousness. I'd like to repeat that just so I'm sure you've got it. Establishing right human relations today is more important than ever, for it is in building soul relations or right human relations that we can bring humanity into the new era and into a new consciousness. Now we know that there is good and evil. We instinctively know that there is a great battle between the forces of evil and the forces of light that is to occur at the ending of the Kali Yuga and the beginning of the Satya Yuga. We know that, according to the calculation of this cycle, that the end of the Kali Yuga was to have begun around the year 2000. The beginning of the Kali Yuga age began in 3102 BCE. 3102. This means that the Kali Yuga would have begun approximately 5,100 years ago, very close to the time of Krishna's death, which was about 5,000 years ago. It was predicted that the Kali Yuga age would last about 1,500 or so years, which brings us to the year 2000. Alongside the ending of the Kali Yuga age and the beginning of the Satya Yuga age, also called Golden Age, is yet another viable life cycle of humanity. It is the ending of the Piscean age and beginning of the Aquarian age. But in all reality, if you really think about it, a new age cannot be determined by the position of the sun, but more by the consciousness of humanity. So as our consciousness changes and we begin to develop soul relationships, we are building a strong and good foundation for a new cycle called the new era. When one age begins to fade out and a new age begins to dawn, a great consciousness changes in the lower kingdoms, but most especially in the human kingdom, where the consciousness of humanity undergoes transformative changes. So this is just some points I wanted to bring out for several reasons, but most importantly for us, we must begin to observe what's going on. Are there changes taking place in the lower kingdoms? What about humanity? Do you see transformative changes occurring? I think we do. I think these changes that we are seeing are predictably difficult. Predictably, if we think about all that we've studied and thought about and researched about the ending of the Kali Yuga age. Now, some people think that this is the time of revelation. I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. Certainly it's not for me to determine. But what I know about the days of revelation doesn't seem to really be promising of the Satya Yuga, the golden age. When we think about the golden age, we're not thinking that humanity has reached perfection, but that they've had a breakthrough in consciousness that has taken place over the 5,100 years of time, and that we're now ready, that we're learning our lessons. So learning our lessons is demonstrated in the great test, and that test comes forward at the end of the Kali Yuga. Now, we know that there's not necessarily a single date, like, January 1st, 2000. It's just not plausible to me. Now, I've studied a lot of geology, and I know that the Ice Age, supposedly, all those animals died and froze and became fossilized, in a moment of time. But you have to build up to that time. And then it takes time to freeze. And then it takes time to become a fossil. So I'm just, sharing these thoughts so we don't get stuck in, one way of thinking. So are we in the Kali Yuga time? If so, then we're in a time of testing. Particularly disciples, aspirants, initiates, senior initiates are now being put to the test. All their striving, all their dedication for many incarnations of traveling the path of discipleship will come to the great test. And that great test is not for them, but for humanity. Have the senior initiates, the disciples, senior disciples, aspirants, have they done their job to bring humanity into the new era? So that's the test. Will millions of people die? That's one other thing I wanted to mention. I've been in the teaching long enough now to have heard repetitive stories like this, that on the day of revelation, hundreds of thousands of millions of people are going to die, and there will be 144,000 people left on the planet. Well, then it goes on. The question is, where are they going to go? Some say the astral plane. Well, you got to really think that through. What is the astral plane? So this last week we've been discussing in class about the cosmic astral plane, which was the origination of the beginning of the Dark Lodge. What happened is that some of the monads broke away from the other involving monads going through the evolutionary chain, and they got caught up. They got caught up in the astral plane. They got caught up in the mental plane. They got caught up in glamour and illusion and decided, I want to stay here. And so they formed this great lodge called the Dark Lodge. And then some slipped from the cosmic astral plane down into the astral plane or the cosmic physical plane. and now they have multiplied. So we're here at this great testing period. How long are we going to be, how long is this period going to be? It's going to depend on the awakening of those agents that are still reflecting the cosmic dark lodge. To me, it doesn't mean that millions of people are going to die. To me, it means that millions of people now have the opportunity to awaken and move beyond that cosmic astral and cosmic physical astral plane. So we have our work to do. In the Agni Yoga teaching, a new age is called a new era. It's termed a new era so that a limited idea is not created in our thinking. So whether we refer to it as a new age, the new era, or the Satya Yuga, the idea is identical. For a new era to begin, we must find a way to what? To change our consciousness. And it is going to be accomplished by those who are elevating their consciousness. Meditators, to start with, meditators, who know how to disidentify with their lower nature and can function in the higher bodies of consciousness. In other words, soul consciousness, soul relations. Those who are now enlightened to the point where they have soul consciousness, what are they going to do? They're going to build soul relations, right human relations. So the foundation of a new era begins with the expanded consciousness of lighted beings, sometimes called initiates, disciples, and aspirants, who will influence and inspire humanity's consciousness to change. How are they going to do that? By creative example. By creative example. As we move into a new era, we want to be cognizant of it and use this new energy in a most spiritual way to bring about new ideas, new thoughts, new hope and faith. See, it's not bringing your childhood beliefs and belief system into your old age. It's not that. And the reason I bring that up is because so frequently we see this happen. We want to bring a new era consciousness into humanity if especially the calculations of the ending of the Kali Yuga are correct and the beginning of the Satya Yuga. See what I'm saying? So now is the time, if you consider yourself to be on the path of discipleship, is to put it into effect. Be a creative example. We really want to feel this incoming energy. You will feel an inner impulse which says, I want to make a difference. I want to bring about a change. How are we going to do that? I really believe it starts with the individual, then goes into the family, then goes into the group, in our case, the spiritual group. So as a spiritual group, we have group endeavors, we have visions, we have ideas of how to share and put the teaching, into effect. How are we doing this? A little bit at a time, but consistently and rhythmically. We have a plan. We have a 5-year, 10-year, actually we have a 20-year plan. And this plan begins to unfold as the need of humanity comes forward. So the thing is, it's not just one little group that can do this. It is the uniting of other groups like ourselves that are in contact with the master, with the ashram, with the planetary logos that are now being impulsed with this cycle, with instruction that the time is right. And so now we step forward, bringing all of our readiness, all of our preparation to the forefront. And this is what I see is happening. You know, groups all over the world are bringing the new era into humanity to change their consciousness. But you yourself must say, you must realize this energy, you must feel it. When you wake up in the morning, you must feel something different. Something different is going on in the world today. Don't just say the world is in trouble. Say, I am here. I feel this energy. How am I going to use it in the most creative way possible that I am able to do? And to be an instrument for it, for this energy. If for nothing else, it is to take better care of your family. If for nothing else, it is to take better care of the birds and the animals. It's like a couple of days ago, I was going outside in the hot weather and lowering the garage door, and here came this most pitiful looking puppy dog. It looked like it hadn't been bathed and brushed for years, and it was panting, and its little tongue was hanging out, and it just sat there and looked at me, and oh my God, I've got 4 dogs that'll kill you. What am I going to do? So I ran into the garage and I found this big bowl, empty bowl, and filled it up with water, and I brought it out, and it's on the driveway now. So every day I change the water and I bring water out for, you know, for the birds and the animals. So just something little like that, you know, changing the consciousness of animals, of the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. There are many more disciples in the world today than there were the first 30 years of the last century. Why is that? Why are there more disciples in the world today, if not to be here to usher in the new era? The path of discipleship asks a lot from its travelers. In one area of service you are made aware of is the importance of right human relations. And I truly believe we cannot build right human relations until we have a soul consciousness. The reason being is that we are serving ourselves until we have that soul consciousness. We serve through our opinions, through our bias, through our anger, hatred, all those, you know, vices that we've been taught about. So we need to let go of all of that, transform that, so we truly can begin to build true soul relationships and bring humanity into the new era. To build soul relationships with one another, we must come in contact with our higher self, also called the solar angel. So this is what happens. A spark came from spirit into matter. The spark was programmed to bloom. That's us, right? We were programmed to bloom, to express, and to expand. During millions of ages, the spark created a physical existence for itself, and it called itself an I. That I was its physical existence. Then after several centuries took place, another I came into existence, the emotional ego. 200 incarnations later, it built the lower mind and the separate self called the mental ego. That's what most people are made of now, those three separate eyes. At this point, the spark began to identify itself with the mental plane and really felt like a separate being, which is so completely opposite from the very beginning. When that spark came from the central spiritual sun and all the beauty and the unity and the sense of integration and integrity, it came from the central spiritual sun, ready to bloom. But then it had to go down, 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 down into dense matter, reconstruct itself so it had a sense or it had a consciousness. So it took a while. So it came to the mental plane finally, where it became a total unity, total inclusiveness, down into matter, where then it separated itself from the whole. It is now at the stage of the separate self, or as I call it, the mental ego. It feels what is the mental ego? It feels like it can do anything it wants to do and everything must work for its own interest. I bet you we know a lot of people that think like this. This is ego. Helena Rourke, the founder of Agni Yoga, wrote, "The church knew their paradise would become poor and empty as soon as intelligence manifested itself." And now, for most disciples and aspirants, the spark is ready to become a soul, following in the footsteps of initiates, and from there to bring about the right environment for humanity to advance. To be a soul essentially means what? To accept the unity and synthesis of everything. And once there, these dedicated sparks will bring humanity into the new era. It is at the soul level that our spark no longer serves its individual self. It serves the all self, and this is the soul level. Following the upward move into the soul level, the spark enters into the intuitional plane. And later it advances into the atmic and monadic and divine planes. But for a long time, it stays in the spiritual triad, which is formed by what? We know this, the mental, the intuitional, and atmic advanced atoms, called permanent atoms. So for a long time, once we become a soul, this is where, our consciousness is going to exist. When the soul, the human soul, enters the spiritual triad, he becomes an arhat. When you as a soul enter the spiritual triad, you become an arhat. An arhat has three great qualities, which are pure light, pure reasoning, pure love and compassion, and pure willpower. The willpower of the human capital S soul, the arhat, resonates now with the will of the Creator. So just from a technical point of view, particularly if you read the Bailey books, when you see in the Bailey books the capital S soul, now you understand that your spark, your human soul, has given birth to itself and is now functioning in the spiritual triad. So it's important to remember and to teach yourself, educate yourself, that every time you read the capital S soul does not necessarily refer to your solar angel. It can mean now that the solar angel has retreated and you have now stepped into the light and the love and the power. So, and you are now, you yourself are now a capital S soul. Is that clear? Okay. It is in the womb of the solar angel the human soul takes form. As the sparks become in tune and totally integrated with their solar angel, they do become soul infused. Soul infused. It's like married. And now on that level, they become totally filled with goodwill and with the spirit of right human relations. The solar angel is all-inclusive and sacrificial. So as we, as sparks, as unfolding human souls, advance into the solar angel's light and aura, lighted aura, light, I like light and aura better, okay. But they're both the same, right? Lighted aura. We become all-inclusive, all-sacrificial, all-loving, and all-compassionate. Plus, we develop pure intelligence and the awareness of the hierarchy. Humanity right now has a pseudo-intellect, but not pure intelligence. I'm going to be talking about this at this little ad. White Mountain's going to be celebrating its 35th anniversary in October, and I'm going to be talking about pure intelligence then. Agni Yoga and pure intelligence. So as we contact the higher self, as we become soul infused, it's then that we begin to live, think, and speak within the framework of right human relations. Your solar angel is all-inclusive and sacrificial. So as you, as a human being, advance into your solar angel's light and aura, what happens? Then you become like the higher self, like the solar angel. You become all-inclusive, all-sacrificial, all-loving, all-compassionate. You develop a pure intelligence and this is so vital, an awareness of the hierarchy. At this time, you begin to demonstrate harmlessness and striving toward the future. You are now one with the higher self and filled with total harmlessness. This is why this path is not so easy. In the beginning incarnations of traveling this path is that we keep encountering our past. And encountering our past is called karma. You know, we've got some good karma out there, thank heavens, that sometimes if we have enough treasury built in our chalice, that between our good karma and the treasury in the chalice, it will neutralize some of that really horrific karma, but not always. So here we are on the path of discipleship, readying ourselves for the new era. And at the same time, we are running into ourselves, into all those incarnations from the past that we couldn't have cared less. You know, we were just not aware. You know, we were not enlightened beings, so now we have to pay to play. So you say, what, I have no intellect? Are you kidding? I've got 3 graduate degrees from Harvard. Well, the teaching says, no. It is the guardian angel, your solar angel, who is doing the thinking for you. It is sometimes our ego, sometimes it's our instinct or our subconscious, but it is not yet pure intelligence. So the solar angel teaches us, impresses our mind, inspires us to be a person of good will and one who engages in right human relations. Those who are in contact with their solar angel demonstrate 3 signs. There's more, but these are 3 for today. The first sign of those who are in contact, they have an awakened conscience. An awakened conscience is when you have come in contact with your solar angel and the conscience develops within you. People have a conscience when they have contact with their solar angel. It can be either a conscious or an unconscious contact. When we ignore our conscience, we put ourselves into a very bad situation, which creates karma and diminishes our energy, our intellect, and our creative power. So, for example, when those monads were descending into matter and they were caught in the cosmic astral plane, maybe you already had this question, but I certainly did, is like, how could glamour have been in the cosmic astral plane? If they're just visiting it for the first time, well, it wasn't the first time, because these monads are coming from the first solar system. The first or the third, depending on which direction you're going, let's call it the third solar system, we go from 3 to 2 to 1, left a lot of debris on those cosmic planes, just like when we landed on the moon. You know, we left a lot of debris behind. So that's my answer, is that they came back into the residue that was left from the previous solar system. Karma. 2, the inner voice. The inner voice, which is higher than conscience. They start listening to that real voice that is talking within them. This is what sometimes is referred to as a voice of silence. It is a direct communication with your solar angel. Many people have this experience. They hear this voice. When you want to go this or that way, sometimes the voice will say certain things to you and direct you like, no, don't do that. I'm not going to say it. I just got back from London. It was a comedy of errors because people kept saying, go over there, and we'd go over there, and it wasn't there. And they'd say, well, go over there, and we'd go over there, and it wasn't there. And we really had an incredible walking tour of London. Had we just paid attention, not dependent on the authority of the local residents, just ask the solar angel, we could have gone straight there. We could have gone to Greenwich. We could have gone so many other places, but we just did a walking tour. Anyway, but what a great metaphor for what happens to people. You know, we do that. We go so many directions, and we never go where we end up where we want to, land. And the third one, you will have a direct impression of what you must do, or visually see what the plan is for you. So what about opposing forces? I knew I wouldn't really have any time today to go into a total answer, but the short answer is that they do exist. Opposing forces do exist, and it's a good thing. Opposing forces can be used constructively or destructively. Constructively, they can be used according to what this term Agni Yoga calls tactica adversa. You take the bad and make it work for you. Here's an example to illustrate it. The Prophet Muhammad told a story to illustrate that if one is intelligent enough, he can learn great lessons from the opposition. Well, in fact, we learn that the greatest teachers are our enemies. MM said our greatest little t teachers are our enemies. MM said, bless your enemies because they are your free teachers. They advertise about you and your work better than your friends. Muhammad's story was this. There was a man called Noah. He built his ark, but he didn't know how to make his ark go north, south, east, or west. It was left to the chance of the winds. One day he observed that the ark was traveling north, and it turned to go exactly west. He said, what is happening? There is something wrong. After searching and searching, he went back to the back of the ark and noticed that a small Satan had a little piece of wood in his hand, and it was affecting the direction of the ark. Noah said, I learned something here. And from that knowledge came the discovery of the rudder. So yes, there are dark forces all around us that are trying to stop our work. They are in the form of criminals, warmongers, false or pseudo leaders, totalitarian, and others. But do not worry. We just need to be vigilant and learn and discover the rudder. So I hope that this morning's talk has given you some food for thought, just about what the new era is, what our responsibilities are in that regard, and to be aware.